It's been about a week since the Pokemon presentation that took place on Pokemon Day on Monday the 27th of February. There was some information that I personally found exciting, like the existence of Pokemon Sleep, but there was also a lot of people disappointed with the fact that there was no mention whatsoever about older Pokemon titles on the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance not going to be made available on the Nintendo Store for the Switch. I was quite happy to see confirmation and snippets of information about the DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, being named the Teal Mask and the Indigo Disc. In this video, I want to delve a bit deeper into some theories of my own and some that have come about as a result of this DLC being announced, as well as relating back to some of the theories that have spawned since the game came out. So buckle up, put your tinfoil hat on as we go on a treasure hunt of theories. The first point I want to talk about is colours. Colours have been a main theme throughout the Pokemon franchise for years, most notably as the names of different versions of games, and why through the years the colours became jewels, colours again, then became letters, celestial bodies, medieval battle equipment, and now back to colours with Scarlet and Violet, and now the Teal Mask and the Indigo Disc DLC, which are shades of green and blue respectively. In the logo for the DLC named The Hidden Treasure of Area Zero, there are 4 diamond-like shapes in and around the letter O in the word Zero, each of them being red, yellow, green and blue. Because we now have part 1 and 2 of the DLC with shades of the colours green and blue, my first theory is that we could get a second DLC release in approximately a year's time in a similar manner as to what we have now, where the second DLC is split into 2 parts and given names that have shades of the colours red and yellow in them, or the next series of games have names to do with the colours red and yellow, as we know that Game Freak like to tease us with obscure hints and references to future releases. This is pure speculation, but imagine there was a Hidden Treasure of Area Zero DLC Part 2 with Part 3 called something like The Crimson Mystery, and Part 4 could be called The Amarillo Dragon. Coincidentally, after the presentation was finished, 2 new Paradox Pokemon became available in Terra Raids in Scarlet and Violet, where the colours of both of them were green and blue as well. I'm sure many others like me were thinking that these new Pokemon were going to be the depictions of Pokemon that were featured in the Scarlet and Violet books in the games. But we were wrong. Or were we? According to the official Pokemon website, it states that both of the recent Paradox Pokemon resembles a sketch made in the Scarlet and Violet books. Resembles. It doesn't necessarily say that it is the same Pokemon. To put it a different way, the number 6 can resemble an upside down 9, and while that's true, 6 and 9 are 2 completely different numbers. The theory initially was that these drawings were what looked like fusion Pokemon of the Johto legendary beasts and the Unova Swords of Justice Pokemon, but we can clearly see that what we have in the Terra Raids right now is not the case. These look just like regular Paradox variants of their respective legendaries, so I can imagine as time goes on, we will get to see Paradox variants of Entei, Raikou, Cobalion and Terrakion. Looking at Walking Wake on its own compared to Suicune, the former being part dragon, I speculate that Entei and Raikou could be similar in design as Walking Wake, being Fire Dragon and Electric Dragon perhaps. I also still believe that this fusion hybrid of the legendary beasts may still exist at some point in the future. It's been alluded to before with the original dragon in Black and White, combining Zekrom, Kyurem and Reshiram. We witnessed something similar happening with Necrozma, with Solgaleo or Lunala, and in the previous generation's DLC, we had Calyrex fusion with either Glastrier or Spectrier, so it's not necessarily a new concept for Pokemon to fuse. Let's say we get the Paradox forms of the legendary beasts, and they are all part dragon and similar in design, where they are on their hind legs with short arms replacing their front legs. My theory is that there could be a dragon type Pokemon that is involved in this, or causing these Pokemon to be part dragon in the first place. However, my theory is quickly thwarted, as when you look at the Paradox Virizion, or Iron Leaves as it's called, and in turn every other Paradox Pokemon that we have, they're similar to one other real Pokemon, but they're not fusions of 2 or more Pokemon. Perhaps if we have all 3 of the Paradox legendary beasts and the Unova Swords of Justice, we could combine the 3 of them to make a combined version as depicted in the Scarlet and Violet books respectively. This is where I open up a can of earthworms when talking about the Paradox Pokemon. I and probably many thought that when we first learned about Paradox Pokemon, and after learning that both games focus on either the past or the future, we thought that it simply meant Pokemon from that time period has made its way into the present. However, while that's in theory mostly true, we must also pay attention to the wording of the entries of these Pokemon sketches in the books. A drawing of a fantastical Pokemon as envisioned by our sketch artist. The size and ferocity of the strange Pokemon that dwell in Area Zero's lower reaches tickled the artist's imagination, prompting the sketch of what other species that inhabit these depths might look like. These Pokemon are not real. They're imaginary, they're fake. They don't exist. But with the creation of the Time Machine and the Terra Crystal's strange power to supposedly bring forth Pokemon by humans' sheer desire to make it happen, you could end up creating completely new Pokemon in the first place. Making Pokemon that don't exist is why they're called Paradox Pokemon. Roize Raven made a 2-part video explaining about the truth behind the disc Pokemon, and he does a better job of explaining this concept than I can, and I've watched both of his videos many times. For example, in his video he talks about Brute Bonnet's existence and how it just doesn't make sense. Supposedly it has come from far off in the past, and its appearance resembles a Pokeball, which was only invented a couple hundred years ago. Yet, the regular Amoonguss line developed its appearance to look like a Pokeball to fool others, which would mean that Amoonguss, or Brute Bonnet, wouldn't look like a Pokeball prior to the Pokeball being created. This is almost like what came first, the Torchic or the egg. It's an impossible question. Both answers are right and wrong at the same time. It's a paradox. He also explains in his videos that it's possible that the crystal formations give humans the ability to create Pokemon through their own thoughts and desires, which doesn't really make sense to begin with, but I would highly recommend you would watch both of those videos for a better structured take on this theory. His videos that are titled The Truth About the Disc Pokemon were released way before the DLC was announced, and now that we have even more official information, let's explore it a bit more. I'm going to start with part 2 of the DLC first because it's my video and I'll do what I want. There's a nice little reference in the design of the logo for the hidden treasure of Area Zero. Before the text appears on the screen, we can see what looks like the Terastal logo appear. If you pause the video and count the number of these hexagons, you'll find that there are 18 in total, which is the same number of types there are in the games. Talking of hexagons, I wasn't expecting the disc Pokemon Terapagos to be straight up revealed like it did. With the symbol of Pokemon types being on its shell, it's quite possible that it may have a unique ability that perhaps changes its type depending on what type of attack it uses. It is presumed that Terapagos is responsible for the Terastal phenomenon, which allows Pokemon to change types. If so, it would make sense that the Pokemon, who has this natural power to do so, can change its own type at will. Going back to the paradox theory and the manifesting Pokemon with one's own thoughts, it's quite possible that this Pokemon is in essence a paradox Pokemon too. The mythical tale that the land is on a turtle's back, swimming in an ocean known as the World Turtle, could just be nothing more than a story. However, it was recently pointed out that when you look at the artwork for the Paldea region, the outline is in the shape of a turtle. Now, what if one was to firmly believe in a turtle Pokemon? One was able to take the story and mean it literally. One that is capable of producing the crystals needed for terrestrialization with all of the types. One could just simply will this creature into existence with the help of the Time Machine. Whether this is Heath's own doing from his drawings in the books, or as the protagonist in the present day by reading the book for themselves. Any of this theorization will only become clear when the DLC drops later on this year. Now let's talk about part 1 of the DLC. We have 4 new Pokemon revealed to us called Ogerpon, Okidogi, Pheasantipity, and Monkidori. If you've watched other information videos about these 4, you may have heard that it is likely based on the story of Momotaro, but I actually haven't heard anyone tell the story, so I'm going to do that for you now. Momotaro was born from a giant peach, which was found floating down a river by an old childless woman who was washing clothes there. The woman and her husband discovered the child when they tried to open the peach to eat it. The child explained that he had been bestowed by the gods to be their son. The couple named him Momotaro, from Momo meaning peach, and Taro, the eldest son in the family. When he was just 5 years old, he was able to cut a big tree with just an old knife. When he matured into adolescence, Momotaro left his parents to fight a band of Oni, or demons or ogres, who marauded over their land by seeking them out in the distant island where they had dwelled, in a place called Onigashima, or the Demon Island. En route, Momotaro met and befriended a talking dog, monkey, and pheasant who agreed to help him in his quest in exchange for a portion of his rations, which was known as kibidango, or millet dumplings. At the island, Momotaro and his animal friends penetrated the demon's fort and beat the band of demons into surrendering. Momotaro and his new friends returned home with the demon's plundered treasure and the demon chief as a captive. If we were to modernize this story and translate it into what this means in terms of gameplay for the DLC, it might look something like this. The word Oni in Japanese means demons or ogres, and because the teal mask is about Ogerpon, It seems like this is the Pokemon that is causing some kind of mayhem in the faraway land that we're going to called Kitakami, which was actually based on the real location of Kitakami in northern Japan. We befriend a dog, monkey, and pheasant, which are the other 3 Pokemon that were revealed to us. It says in the story that Momotaro befriends these 3 by offering them rations. In Scarlet and Violet, I imagine we will encounter these Pokemon in a similar way that we encountered the Totem Pokemon, and have a similar cutscene where we mix sandwiches and share them with the 3 legendaries in order for them to want to come with us. By penetrating the Demon's Fort, this could mean that in order to encounter Ogerpon, we have to do something similar to the Team Star storyline, where in the base game we infiltrate the hideouts in order to draw out their leader. Lastly, it mentions that we return with the Demon Chief as captive and with the Demon's plundered treasure. Captive meaning obviously that we get to capture Ogerpon, but whatever the Demon's treasure turns out to be is something that we'll get to find out when the DLC comes out. I could go on about other theories and speculation about what the DLC may provide us, so if you would like to see a continuation of this type of video with other theories, or if there's something you think I haven't covered, please let me know down in the comments and I will put together another video discussing these theories. That's going to do it for this video, so if you did enjoy or learn something useful, be sure to like the video and subscribe if you want to see some more like these, and I will hopefully see you soon in another video.